It's the internet, you're busy. Let's do this for October 28th, 2022. For the next hour or so, let me help you soar through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Xbox Game Pass didn't meet its internal goals. Sonic has been acquired 1.5 billion times and more. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Tamoor Hussain, everybody. Tam, how are you doing?
What is 1.5 billion times in rings?
Yeah, I mean, that's the conversion rate can't be too good. I know the value of the ring dropping to the dollar has been.
I love the idea of like lots of money appearing at Sega and then being like, "Hey, we've got lots of money," and they're like, "You need to convert this into rings for us."
I like the idea.
We don't understand.
Yeah, whenever they have like a lot of money in their pockets and then they stub their toe or something and take damage, it just flies out of them. Dollar bills just flying everywhere.
Just like that's the curse of Sega executives. The moment you accept a job as a Sega executive, you also accept the curse that if you get damaged, the rings will fly out.
Yes, your money is your health now. So sorry about that. I suppose that's the way it works in our system now, anyhow.
Yeah, true.
How you been? It's Friday, Tam. I come to these Friday ones. First, number one, looking forward to talking to you. Number two, though, kind of like, hey, I'm done with this week for the most part. Like, we'll talk about some news. We'll do a show. I will do work for you, but boy, I'm ready to get to that weekend.
I like doing the Friday ones because it's a little more casual.
Yeah,
like we're not trying to do anything wild. We're just trying to have a little chat and get through a bit of news. But I'm doing all right. I'm going to admit I am tired. You will see me yawn many times.
Right, you've been working.
I was working very late, midnight oils, and it was just like, okay. So and then I went to bed, and I'm a bit of an insomniac, so I struggled falling asleep. So I think I've been asleep for maybe like 3 hours, 2 hours. So.
Again, I appreciate you coming. If you ever need that Friday off after a night like that, you just let me know.
No. It's all good.
I don't get why you're working so hard. The Sonic Frontiers embargo isn't for another week and a half. This guy won't stop, won't quit. All right, before we get into this mess, let's explain what we do here. Each weekday, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. Hello, Twitch. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Xbox has failed to reach its Game Pass subscriber target for the second year running. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. Microsoft has failed to hit its internal target number for Xbox Game Pass subscribers for the second year in a row. Axios reports that a new financial filing made by the company gives information on annual targets tied to CEO Satya Nadella's pay, as well as that of other key Microsoft executives. In order for the target to be hit, Microsoft had to see a growth rate of 72.88% in Xbox Game Pass subscribers. And that's for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. Instead, while the number of subscribers did grow, it only grew at a rate of 28.07%. So this is the second year in a row that they're going to miss out on I think the bonus that they get if they hit these numbers. They've tied their bonus pay to growing Game Pass. Last year, they were trying to hit it. The target was 47.79%, and they hit 37.48% growth. So we also just heard, earlier this week on the show, we discussed Phil Spencer saying growth is slowing. Well, there's the number now. We could see that growth is slowing. It is still growing, but probably not at a rate that they thought, because they set their really high expectations. Now, I know Microsoft does set high expectations. It's one of Phil Spencer's things that they've talked a lot about. We also mentioned that when we talked about this earlier this week. But even still, they think that hitting that growth number of 72.8% was possible, and they're kind of nowhere near that. What do you think is happening here?
I think obviously growth comes from year over year growth is what they're probably looking for, and I think the thing they're struggling with is penetration and also saturation. Their numbers are probably good by most people's measures, but growth as a specific metric is very hard to kind of reach when you've already got a pretty good saturation rate of your audience. And 73% is a lot. That is extremely high
exactly.
for a year-over-year or even month like growth rate. Any sort of like on top of existing. If it was like year one and they were like, we want to hit 72% or 73%, okay, cool. But like this is after they've spent a lot of time already marketing and bringing people in and launching it on PC and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but it's weird because like that this reads everything about this reads like, oh, Game Pass is failing. I wouldn't say Game Pass is failing at all. I think
Right.
like what is failing here is like very specific business and internal metrics are not being hit. That doesn't necessarily mean Game Pass is doing bad. We know Game Pass is doing pretty good and it's had an interesting impact on the industry. So,
Yes,
yeah.
I think that's a very accurate reading of what's happening. I mean, what it seems like it's just comes down to is these numbers, these internal targets are for Satya Nadella's pay, basically bonuses for the CEO of Microsoft. Everyone below him they will not have the same exact targets. This is just like, hey, if we get here, we're going to give our CEO extra money because he did so much better than we were expecting. This is something that he has hit before. I mean, the team has hit before, which enabled him to get a target. 2 years ago, they had a target of 71% growth, and they had 85.75% growth, which also speaks to what you were saying. Like earlier, it's easier to get this level of growth for this metric when there are fewer people subscribing in the first place. Now there's significantly more, and like every new subscriber is going to be that much more of a challenge than the last one was. So the fact that it is still growing overall is a pretty good sign, because 28% growth on a bigger number is significantly more people. So it continues to be a good sign. Also, but it is far off from that goal, but they were never going to be able to meet that goal unless they did have something like Starfield dropping, and maybe that's where that number originally came from. Starfield not actually coming in time for this end of fiscal year or any time after that. Now it's coming in the whole following calendar year. So without games to really push it, of course they weren't going to hit this number, right?
No, yeah, this is, like you said, this is like a very, very difficult target to hit, and it is specifically for the CEO of Microsoft, who, you know what, this might be unfounded and a hunch. I reckon he might be all right without all this money.
Yeah,
I
I
reckon
think he's going to
might
skate
survive.
by. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he, just by the skin of his teeth, he might be okay. So I don't think like anyone's worried. I don't think like Phil Spencer's sitting there being like, oh my God, we didn't get the bonus for Satya. Game Pass is dead. I don't think he cares.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, it is. It will be fine. Like it's chill. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's almost. I'm at a point where 28% growth on where this is not over that 25 million number we were hearing earlier, but that's like without games coming alongside it, like it's still growing that fast. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, from if you take out the numbers and like, the numbers relate to Satya Nadella's targets, and you say, hey, it grew 28%. That's impressive, especially as you said, where there's no games. And like the I think like the team over there, Phil and crew, and everyone there has clearly understood that this was gonna happen, which is why part of why all these acquisitions and new games are kind of happened. They're going back to the model of, in order to grow Game Pass further, you need to make sure that there are new customers that purchase an Xbox that don't have it. And the classic model for in gaming to like, how do you get people to buy consoles is exclusives. You have exclusives, you have your own kind of like unique experiences that you can't buy anywhere else. Thus, people think more about buying your specific console. And like we said, like between the Starfield stuff and the acquisitions that they've made, Ninja Theory, all those other studios that they are working with, and all the projects that are yet to come out that are Game Pass, at the very least exclusive to Game Pass, or to some degree only available on Game Pass. Once that stuff starts hitting, you'll see the plan come into effect where people go, oh, I got to buy an Xbox, Series X, Series S, whatever it may be. And then once they buy that, then they add, Game Pass to it. And then that's where the kind of growth comes. So I feel like if you just read this story, it might seem doom and gloomy, but actually, if you just focus on the Xbox division specifically and the intentions and the plan around that, everything seems to be going according to plan for them.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where we're going to see these things grow in fits and starts, especially when I think a lot of people are coming down from the beginning of the generation still right now, where hey, I made my early bet. I did go all in on a PlayStation 5, and I spent months trying to find one, and I got that. I am not suddenly going to jump over to and get an Xbox and worry about getting a subscription there. But as like things do ramp back up in terms of the economy and people feeling secure and making purchases, which, we've seen consumer sentiments remain relatively high, but even still, you would expect it to come down a little bit from where we were during the end of the pandemic and to now. But as those games come out and people are feeling better about spending more money and they're more comfortable, like, hey, I got the PlayStation 5, I invested a lot in it, but now I have a little bit extra entertainment money. Maybe I will go get an S to play Starfield and stuff like that. You could see the points where it can grow again. At the same time, Phil Spencer was on stage this week saying we expect growth to slow, and we don't expect Game Pass to become a much bigger piece of our overall pie going forward from where the 15% where it's at right now. I think that's probably just, I think there's a little bit of spin there. I think it's probably just delayed in the side, like in its next big growth phase. But for now, I would imagine like this next year, they probably are going to have either similar or slower growth for the fiscal year that we're in right now, and up until we get to Starfield. So
I think so. There's also a clip of Phil Spencer on stage being asked what the metaverse is. Have you seen that?
Yeah, we were talked about that. I didn't actually watch the clip. I just read the quotes. But
it's so good.
Yes.
It's just him like being like, it's a badly made video game. And everyone's like, just cuts away from him. I'm like, good job, Phil.
Yeah, I love that, actually. That's really good stuff. PlayStation 5 has reached 2 million sales in Japan, tracking slightly behind PlayStation 4. PlayStation 5 has crossed the 2 million sales milestone in Japan. However, it became the slowest modern Sony console to do so. That's according to sales data from Famitsu. The console has sold 2,027,783 units in Japan as of October 23rd, 2022. This is divided into 1,749,737 PS5 consoles, and then the other portion there is digital edition consoles at 278,000. This means that the console managed to cross the 2 million threshold in 101 weeks, and just short of 2 years following its launch. For comparison, the PS4 took 90 weeks to do so, and the PS3 an even shorter 73 weeks. PS5 obviously held back by supply constraints more than anything. I think if it was as available as possible, it probably would have hit those PS4 numbers. PS3 was a different time in Japan, so 73 weeks is very, very fast there, and people are buying fewer consoles in Japan overall. But still, at that hitting that 2 million number and getting there, like, okay, pretty quickly after the PS4, and now knowing that supply constraints are lifting, especially on the PS5 as they've done that revision. This thing should now begin tracking with the PS4 or ahead of it going forward now, I believe. What do you think?
Yeah, agreed. Like, I don't think it's any surprise that this is happening. And also, I don't think it's any surprise to think about what the actual causes of it are. It's the same story that has been impacting pretty much any notable piece of hardware in the last 2-3 years. Supply constraints, microchip issues, that kind of stuff. So I'm actually quite impressed that I got to this number, given the prevalence of like kind of challenges for technology. It was like that stuff hit phones, it hit everything, like microwaves, fridges, like everything got hurt by the kind of mixture of availability and then actual, the chip shortages. So pretty impressive to see it get to this number. And like you said, I think it's going to, with the revision and like things starting to become a bit more normal in just like shipping and manufacturing and that kind of stuff, I think it's going to pick up the pace a lot more. I'm interested to see how kind of like January time, what the kind of holiday numbers are going to be. I think they'll probably be much higher. But I still think like, It is an expensive thing, but I feel like consoles as a whole will get a big boost out of it. I expect the PlayStation 5 to kind of do a big leap, and similarly the Switch. I think the Switch is going to have a great time, and you know, we know how Microsoft is in Japan, but there's enough people there to get a little bump, I think.
Yeah. You know, the story here. This one comes from VGC. They pointed out that you know, PS5 is way more expensive than those previous consoles, and it's all, you know, it just had a price increase, and yet it's still tracking. So just shows you that demand is still sky high. And yeah, I think that by the end of this generation, they will have mostly made up those gains and or, you know, those shortcomings. And yeah, they've also found ways to make the system a lot cheaper with the revisions. So they're making a little bit more money on that system too. So it's like financially, they're well positioned.
Yeah, and also like not to discount the good games that have been out there, but Japan responds and resonates with a very specific kind of game, and like you know, there haven't been a lot of those kind of games. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like we've had amazing games like Horizon, Spider-Man, and all these other kind of like releases, but they're still. There will be a market difference once the next Final Fantasy comes out. You'll see that change and have a very noticeable impact on sales numbers. So, you know, whether that's 7 Rebirth or like there was 16, 17, 18, the new Final Fantasy. I forgot where we're
at. Yeah, 16, right? Is that where we're at now?
I think it's 16.
Jeez.
I think it's 16.
Someone should stop them.
Yeah. You said you'd do one.
You said it was
and then move on.
Jesus, that'd be funny. You'd still be really mad about that. That should be my personality.
Yeah, that should be that. People should like pull up the gooch and be like, "What are you doing, Sakaguchi? Stop it!"
Yeah, get back your whole Sakaguchi. Alan Wake 2 remains on schedule for 2023 as Remedy provides updates on Control sequels. This comes from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. As part of developer Remedy's latest earnings briefing, the Finnish game studio confirmed that one of its most highly anticipated upcoming games, Alan Wake 2, remains on track for release in 2023. The developer also provided development updates on its 4 other games in development, including its Control sequels. Plenty of games have been delayed in recent times for a variety of reasons, but we now know Alan Wake 2 is not among them, at least for now, although that schedule could change in the future. In any event, Remedy also stated that Alan Wake 2 is now in the full production stage. There's still a lot of work to be done, but the game is coming together on all fronts. User testing continues, and the feedback from the user research has been encouraging, Remedy said. You know, I guess it's a little bit nice to hear a studio come out and say, no, a game still is coming when we said it's coming. I also don't believe them. Like, why believe them?
I think like I don't when if I said I agree and I don't believe him, I don't think that they believe and differently right now, but the timing, I mean, like they know better than us. Who are we to say like, oh, this clearly looks like it's going to be delayed, because I've never made a game. You know, but like I feel like if they're like, hey, it's now in full production and it will be out next year, that seems like what? I don't know if now in full, like if they're just saying it's now in full production and we're letting you know that it's now in full production, but actually full production started like a year ago or 2 years ago, then I'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But I don't know. It feels like they are, when they say now in full production, they mean like we recently started full production. And Remedy they're a talented developer that I adore. But they're not a massive developer. They don't do a lot of like outsourcing work. They definitely work with partners, but they're not like an Activision studio or an EA studio where they have a lot of people around the world working on a project at all times. And as we said here, like Control is a Control sequel is also in development alongside Alan Wake 2 and various other things. So it's not like the entire studio is working on one thing. So I hope and pray that it is on track for 2023. I will be surprised and impressed if it gets there.
Yeah, I mean, just on top of everything you said, this is a studio very busy, right? They have 5 games in production. Alan Wake 2 is just one of them. That includes remakes of Max Payne 1 and 2 in partnership with Rockstar Games. And they're also making some other Control games from the story. The Control spinoff codenamed Condor remains in the proof of concept stage. Meanwhile, we are giving the team time to work on a multitude of important game design elements and finalize the key pillars before moving the project to the next development phase. So, yeah, I mean, they obviously, Alan Wake 2 is the thing that's on their plate right now that they are considering. Like, that's the front burner. We have everything else on the back burner right now. But doing so much work spread across so many different projects, you can imagine that it would be very easy for something to go wrong, and now Alan Wake 2 needs some extra time. That's happened with so many games recently. That's kind of where my default thinking is. So, and like the games that did come out this year, like Tam, like I'm thinking of like Saints Row, Gotham Knights, games that did come out, but seemed like they could have used a lot more time. It's like, so I think that's just where gaming has been for the last year, where it's like everything needed more time. We just got to a point where some of them didn't get it and they got shipped anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think Remedy as a studio are smart enough to know not to rush games. I can't think of any games that they've put out that are like, this is not good. I mean, people have their own opinions of games, their games. Like some people really don't like Quantum Break, but they don't put out games that are underbaked, I would say. So I hope they continue that and they're not like pressured into putting it out.
They also said another new Control game, codename Heron, is in the concept stage. So lots of stuff coming. And then the fifth new game in development at Remedy right now is a free-to-play co-op multiplayer game called Vanguard that the team is making in partnership with Tencent. So
stop making games called Vanguard.
Yes.
No more games called Vanguard.
Also, Remedy stopped making games with Tencent. Your last one didn't. I think Tencent is a Crossfire, right? Maybe that's not Tencent. But
I mean, like they're a small studio. They got to earn that cash somehow.
Yeah, get paid.
Get your money.
Get your money.
Get your paid. I mean, like if it's a case of one for us or one for them, a few for us.
It does seem like that.
Fair play.
Yes.
Like 100% do it. I respect it. Just don't call it Vanguard. I hate games. No,
it's not just games either. There's like every other game also has a character class named Vanguard too. So it's just everywhere. It's everywhere.
Vanguard.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Ubisoft sales dip in the first half, but Q2 beat guidance handily. Excuse me. This comes from Brendan Sinclair at GamesIndustry.biz. Ubisoft reported its first half sales results today, posting revenues down slightly, but still handily beating its guidance issued after the first quarter, thanks to back catalog sales. From the numbers, revenue was at 731 million euro. That's down 3% year over year. Net bookings were 699 million euro, down 3% over year. Operating loss of 215 million euro. Despite the revenue dip in operating losses, however, Ubisoft was upbeat in reporting its first half sales results for a handful of reasons. On the revenue front, the single-digit dip was actually significantly better than Ubisoft had told investors to expect. A lot of this is coming, Tam, it seems like, because Assassin's Creed Rainbow Six continue to sell very well from like previous releases. That's the kind of thing where Ubisoft it does have this history to rely on. It does have successful games. It has games that, like, when people realize, I did just buy a console, I should go get that Assassin's Creed game I never played. That happens. That's a conversation people have with themselves and their wallets a lot. The question and concern for Ubisoft continues to be, what is next, and can they reload their ammunition in terms of releasing new stuff? And that still seems to be uncertain. Like, is this new generation of Assassin's Creed going to be able to maintain and sell for long periods of time as this big live service thing, like they have been selling so far?
Yeah, I think I if I had to like wager, like I think they're in a decent position. Like Mirage is supposed to come out next year, right? 2023, and the question is around like when does their Assassin's Creed Infinite platform kind of come into play? Because the whole point of that thing is like giving people access to old Assassin's Creed games and tying it all together, right? And that is basically them creating a portal into buying old Assassins or existing Assassin's Creed experiences on top of the new ones. So I think like they will be fine. I feel like Mirage also is. It seems like there's more immediate interest in it than any other Assassin's Creed game in recent memories. I feel like Assassin's Creed games, the new ones, have been doing well, like exceptionally well.
Yeah.
But rarely is there like a groundswell of like excitement around it in the same way that there was for Mirage. Like people were tweeting about how excited the way they were for it once the trailer was out, and I don't remember seeing that for like, I don't know what the last one was even called.
Yeah.
What was it? What was the last one? Odyssey? No, it wasn't Odyssey, was it? There was one after that.
Yeah. It was,
Valhalla.
Yes, Valhalla. Jesus,
Valhalla.
man. God, yeah, I couldn't remember either.
Yeah, Vanguard, Assassin's Creed Vanguard.
Hey, listen, roll the dice. That could be right.
Yeah, I mean, like, if people weren't like, I don't think I remember people being like super visibly and like excited about it. So, but with this one, there were people. They're like, "Hey, we made one of those old Assassin's Creed games. How you like that?" And people were like, "Thank God, this sounds great." So they'll be fine. For me, like the thing I kind of struggle with Ubisoft these days is what are they beyond Assassin's Creed now? I feel like they are. This is a company that very much, you know, they made a lot of kind of their successes off Assassin's Creed, but there was a time when they weren't just Assassin's Creed. There were a bunch of other games, and obviously Siege is one of them. But I just don't know where this company is without AC. So that kind of like they've got a lot riding on that franchise, so they need it to pop off. Like we don't know if these games are going to be actually received well, like where there is excitement about it, but anything outside of Assassin's Creed just doesn't seem to be pulling its weight. You know, there are franchises like Rainbow Six and like Far Cry and I mean, like, I was going to say Ghost Recon, but let's be honest, there hasn't been a good Ghost Recon game in a really long time. Sam Fisher continues to be just dead somewhere in a ditch. Dead. Yeah, and he's dead in a ditch, and then Ubisoft CEO point at him and go, "I think he's still alive. We're going to use him. He'll be alive. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know. They got that Mabbids game. Fair play to them on that. I kind of like wonder what happens if an Assassin's Creed game flops. Can an Assassin's Creed game even flop?
It doesn't seem like
it too big to fail?
It seems like I mean, it's just like a Call of Duty at this point or Madden. There's an audience built in that wants the new one. So yeah, that's kind of how it seems to be going. You talked about like, hey, what are they beyond Assassin's Creed? It seems like Ubisoft doesn't even know. I mean, one of the things they talked about, CFO Frederick Dugu, he said the H1 bottom line notably reflects accelerated research and development depreciation, including for previously announced canceled projects as we pivot our focus towards our biggest opportunities. So it's like even within the last year, they were working on stuff, spending money, researching what they're going to do next, canceling those things because they thought, well, this isn't going to work. And so it's like they are, kind of reaching out in every direction, trying to find out what's going to happen next, or trying to find out what's going to be their next big opportunity. And they keep changing their minds to the point where there's a lot of like dead projects on the ground there at Ubisoft. Not that there's something intrinsically wrong with like saying this isn't going to work, let's cancel it. It just, I think it's indicative of where Ubisoft is at right now. Yeah.
Didn't they also announce or discuss a multiplayer game based on this Invictus? Is that a thing that happened?
Yeah, in terms, you mean like an Assassin's Creed multiplayer game?
During this actual kind of report, there was mentions of Invictus being in development or something like that.
That's something they've definitely mentioned before. So I didn't see it as a new headline, but it might have been. Either way, they've said as part of their like big campaign going forward, like we're gonna have the next game, which is smaller and that's coming out pretty soon. But then we're gonna do the big live service game that's gonna have Japan and some other stuff like set in the Holy Roman Empire, and then also as part of that, there's going to be this multiplayer thing you could do.
So a team including For Honor veterans is currently working on bringing back multiplayer to Assassin's Creed with a standalone experience through Infinity under the project codename Invictus. Okay.
Well, that's cool.
I think like that's the big Ubi move now. Like they're still trying to crack the multiplayer thing, where it's like, what is our steady stream of reliable revenue where we can continue to grow it. And they tried with a bunch of, battle royale games, some sports games that didn't hit, but it feels like they're finally coming back to the one thing that people have constantly been asking for, which is, a multiplayer Assassin's Creed experience. And I think like putting the For Honor team on it, like all For Honor veterans on it, is a pretty savvy move. I think like that game was, I think For Honor's greatest or like challenge was making people care when it doesn't have a recognizable brand name attached to it. Like they did a lot of great work in establishing that kind of like world and building that brand. But I feel like it's a whole different, story when you just tag on. If it was called Assassin's Creed For Honor, it would have been a whole different thing. Like the interest level would have been completely different. So making them come back and do that, I just hope that it's true to Assassin's Creed and it isn't just like, hey, we did For Honor again. Here's a assassin that looks like a Viking fighting an assassin. Like the old like social stealth kind of multiplayer experiences is what most people want. So if they rock up with, we got a big combat game, this might be a bit weird. Did you see that? My cat just opened the door.
Oh my good kitty, getting smart, figuring stuff out. Good for that cat. All right, let's move on to Sega releases list of lifetime total unit sales and downloads for its IPs. Lifetime sales total of Sega IPs. Number 1, Sonic the Hedgehog with 1.51 billion. Now, of course, that's not just sales. If that would be the best-selling game in the history of mankind, right? It's that includes free-to-play downloads as well. So, good for Sonic, but a little bit misleading. Total Wars at 40.4 million. Puyo Puyo at 37.7 million. Then Football Manager, 25 million. Yakuza, 19.8 million. Virtua Fighter, 18.8 million. Shin Megami Tensei, 19 million. Hatsune Miku at 18.5 million. Persona, 15.5. And Phantasy Star at 9.8 million. It puts some of that stuff in perspective, but, I think like Yakuza, I'm like, that's a really good number for Yakuza.
Yeah, Yakuza is popping off. Like, I think I still think of Yakuza as a niche, but it's way beyond that right now. Like it's a lot of Sega has a lot of properties that seem like they're very niche, but actually do really, really well. Like Puyo Puyo lifetime sales, obviously, but like Puyo Puyo, I didn't expect to be that high. Even with like Japanese game weirdos, like Puyo Puyo seems a kind of like a niche, but good stuff on that. And I think like the surprising one for me is Phantasy Star. Like I thought that would be way higher, but I guess not. Like my old school brain just clearly thinks of it much higher than it actually is.
It's that sort of Metroid thing where it's like, this is one of the biggest games in the world when I was a kid. Of course it's huge. And then you got the sales numbers like, oh, it was just huge among like the game magazines I was reading and the one website that talked about it I was going to. Yeah, it's like, now it's like, oh, video games are so much bigger that, if you have like Yakuza games that all came out after that, well, they're selling to a bigger audience. So of course they're selling more.
Yeah. It's the most impressive thing is honestly Sonic. Like this sounds really like a dumb observation to make, but like I'm gonna be honest, there's not a lot of good Sonic games out there. Okay, there are definitely some Sonic games out there.
Yes, there are
not a lot of good Sonic games.
There are some Sonic games. Science has agreed on that much at the very least.
So like the fact that it's this high is like wild, but it's just. This is the clearest example of the Sonic marketing machine being so effective.
Yep.
That like this number isn't based on Sonic games. This number is based on a Sonic comic book or a Sonic TV show or like a Sonic cookie that you saw in a bakery or something. That's how it works now. So people like whisper the word Sonic, and then somewhere else in the world, the butterfly effect is someone buys a Sonic game.
Exactly. Yes. I think that it's 1.51 billion for games that you buy and for free downloads kind of doesn't matter when you're at that big of a number. It is just related to the sheer power of that brand, which is sort of undeniable at that scale. The other one here near the bottom of the list, but actually pretty impressive also, Persona, 15.5 million. A little bit more on that from Persona Central. Sega Sammy has released their Japanese annual integrated report 2022, giving an overview of the company's most notable intellectual properties and their sales. They noted that 15.5 million came while no new Persona game was released in the fiscal year ended March 2022, with an indicated difference in total series sales between 2021 and 2022 of 500,000 units. So another 500,000 units added to the total. This brings the new total of Persona worldwide sales for the sales of the series to 15.5 million since its inception 26 years ago. An important statistic that Sega points out is that Persona 5 series alone, that consists of Persona 5 Dancing and Starlight, Persona 5 Royal, and Persona 5 Strikers, as well as Persona 5 proper, has sold 7.22 million units worldwide, making up 46.6% of the total series sales. 77% of those sales come from overseas customers. So when you hear those numbers, like what do you think like the future of Persona is in terms of launching globally at the same time and launching across different devices at the same time going forward?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like I think Persona 5 has really changed how they approach this franchise entirely. Like the Persona games have always been good and successful to a degree, but like I think they've really opened like this is like it's gonna sound wild, but like this is Sega when it comes to the Persona franchise. Persona 5 was their Call of Duty 4. Like they were like, holy shit, like this is ridiculous. And like I think that the strategy around Persona is gonna change in very noticeable ways, and it's going to fall in line with the way you see most Western publishers treating their big tentpole games like Call of Duty, like Assassin's Creed, like Battlefield, and like that kind of like, not to say they'll be yearly. I don't think we're going to get yearly Persona games, but what I think we'll get is like these games are no longer a niche, or they're no longer for like anime weirdos like us. Like it's going to be big marketing, big multi-platform, big multi-region releases. They're going to make a big deal of voice actors again and that kind of business. So I'm kind of excited about that because like the Persona franchise is one that I obviously love quite a lot, and it's always kind of been like tucked away and out of like everyone, out of kind of like the spotlight. But 5 really changed that, and yeah, I fully expect them to double down on the popularity of 5 to leverage that for future Persona titles like 6, or whatever spin-offs they have. I don't think it's necessarily gonna have an immediate and kind of like definite impact on all games. Like we have the Persona franchise is obviously one subset of the SMT universe. They have like a bunch of other games. So I think that what we'll see is like a greater kind of boundary drawn around Persona, and kind of like using some of that to push more other Sega or at least SMT properties. I don't know, it might be like Devil Summoner or something like that. They'll have more connections to the Persona universe. So yeah, it's wild to see a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei do so well. And I think like it's 5 is going to redefine a lot of how Sega approaches their JRPGs, especially in the SMT world.
Yeah. I mean, they've basically confirmed that that's exactly what did happen. According to President and CEO Haruki Satomi, one of the primary points of focus for the fiscal year ended March 2022 was expanding touch points with users, consisting of simultaneous worldwide and multi-platform releases. There was skepticism within the company about selling Japan-based titles to the worldwide market simultaneously, but opinions changed when Persona and the Like a Dragon series were successful hits and experienced global sales growth. So it's like, yeah, they finally they're finding that huge global audience that they can't ignore anymore. Before it was like, yeah, people buy these games worldwide, but now it's like, oh no, we need to be catering to this global audience almost, or at least in terms of making sure that we provide these products for them right away going forward. So good news if you don't want to wait a long time for Persona 6 after it releases in Japan. Sounds like that might not be the case going forward, or at least it'll be a much shorter wait than it has been in the past.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Me too.
I'm glad that Sega is doing well with games outside of Sonic.
Yeah, and they're recognizing their faults and changing the way of doing things, which has always been my problem with Sega. They just, how can you make that boneheaded mistake with Persona so many times of just leaving it on PlayStation with no real obvious co-marketing deal in place? It was just slow going at Atlas and Sega getting that ported to other stuff. Well, that shouldn't be a problem going forward.
No, thank you, Persona 5.
Exactly. Modern Warfare 2 crossplay can't be disabled on Xbox and PC versions. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. Xbox and PC players of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 have discovered that they can't directly disable crossplay in the latest Call of Duty entry. The PlayStation versions of the game contain an option allowing players to either enable or disable crossplay with other platforms, as has been the case in recent Call of Duty titles on all platforms. However, the Xbox and PC versions are now completely lacking this option, causing players to take to Twitter to voice their frustration. People, a lot of people on console I know hate playing with people on PC because they're like, hey, either you're cheating or you're finding a way to continue using your mouse and keyboard. Even though Call of Duty tries to put people in different hoppers depending on your input device. And I know a lot of people get pretty frustrated. So taking away this option is annoying. It's not the first game to do that, though. I think a lot of Microsoft games like Halo and Gears of War, I think they don't have the option to turn off crossplay with PC either, which I know is also a point of annoyance for a lot of people on Xbox. It's just weird that PlayStation has the option and these consoles don't. I wonder, like, what is happening there that causes that to happen?
Yeah, I do not know at all what would the kind of technical side of why that would happen, but it does. I would be annoyed if I was on a console and constantly going up against PC people. That would piss me off quite a lot as someone who also plays PC games and understands the inherent advantage to being able to whip your mouse across the table and quickly spin around and land a headshot and then move on with your life. But yeah, I don't know what the technical side. I wouldn't be surprised if this is implemented fairly quickly. There are definitely games where you can turn it off, right? Like
yes,
you said,
absolutely.
Halo, you can do that.
Halo, you can't. I thought you could. Maybe it was Sea of Thieves where you can't turn it off. There's a handful of Xbox games where you can't turn it off.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you could turn it off if you wanted to on Halo.
Okay, all right.
I might be wrong, but I definitely played crossplay from PC to Xbox. But I remember there being a period where it was like weird, and the solution was just don't connect with people outside of your platform. I think someone in chat is pointing out you can do it at settings level, and it just turns it off for everything.
Okay.
You could turn it off for Master Chief Collection, but not Halo Infinite or something.
Oh,
okay, cool. Well, regardless, there are definitely games out there where you can be like, nope, I don't want this. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is implemented fairly soon.
Yeah, it seems like, especially if an outcry continues, I agree. EA denies claims it will stop selling physical games in some parts of Europe. There was an original story here from Ryan Dinsdale at IGN where he wrote the following: EA games, including FIFA, Battlefield, and more, will no longer be sold physically in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and Scandinavia. The industry analyst Maru Enel shared a report from Games Workshop on Twitter, which states that the German-based Electronic Arts GmbH will no longer sell physical copies of the games in these countries. EA reached out to IGN with a statement to basically say that's not happening. EA has provided a statement to IGN denying reports that it will stop selling physical games in some parts of Europe, meaning business will continue as normal. And here's a quote from that statement: "We have not stopped physical distribution of our games in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and more, and players will continue to be able to buy our games from retailers across the region." So I guess, kind of just a quick update, I guess, on a story that might have been a little bit confusing to people. But yeah, when I first saw that headline, I was like, that's strange. And then I looked, it had been updated pretty quickly. It seems like EA reached out almost immediately to say that's not accurate. So I would expect physical games to continue being sold by all major publishers going forward. I know there's a lot of concern about the all digital future from people. I'm like a little bit skeptical that we're going to get to a point where the consoles definitely won't have disk drives anymore. There's a lot of momentum behind keeping disk drives and disk sales going, but publishers do like digital only stuff to a certain degree.
I mean, it's the same as driverless cars. Like everyone who's invested in saving money and changing the way they have ownership over it will try, but like people are ultimately going to be very weirded out when there's no one behind the wheel and you can't pick up a disc and put it in. Like, I would be interested to see like how the PlayStation 5, for example, the disc versus discless numbers stack up and what the split is there. But yeah, I'm one of those people who has warmed to digital purchases primarily, but if you ask me, hey, we're going to remove the opportunity or the possibility of you using discs, I will be like very quickly on the other side. I'll be like, no, you can't be doing that. Like,
I think that's going to be a lot of people, like even a lot of people who have embraced digital, like you said, you have. It'll freak them out. It'll freak people out. Like, wait, no, having discs is like a secure way of making sure I know I have the thing, and of course it's not that simple. And but regardless, like that, people feel that way, and so trying to, it's going to be a slow process, I think. And I think the companies that want to go all digital know this, and are like, we'll just let people slowly corner themselves into being digital only, and we'll make it one day that the discless version of a console will be the obvious one to get. It'll be significantly less expensive, and it will be more available. And a lot of people will be like, well, I guess I'll just get that one. All my stuff's digital anyhow. And they'll just, we'll do it for them. We'll make the decision for them so they don't have to rip it away from us.
Yeah.
A couple quick stories here. Epic's long dead MOBA Paragon is being revived. This is from Rich Stanton at PC Gamer. Paragon was their MOBA over at Epic Games. And then Fortnite happened and they shut down Paragon because Paragon did not make as much money as Fortnite did. But one thing that Epic did, it was pretty interesting at the time, was make all of the assets they had for Paragon available to use for free for anyone who wanted to use them. And so now a Korean studio is taking the elements of that game and putting it back out as a MOBA with all kinds of Paragon-looking gameplay mechanics. And Netmarble is actually the studio that's going to do it. And people might be familiar with Netmarble. They do some like Marvel mobile games and things like that. But yeah, it's coming back. And I guess I always thought that this was something that could have happened when the assets got put back out, but it wasn't like the assets got used in a lot of other ways, and there was no word of this ever happening. It was like, okay, well now here we are just years later. It probably just took some time for a studio to realize we should do that and then actually put in the effort to make it happen. So pretty interesting. I guess we'll see what it looks like soon enough.
It's definitely interesting. I am extremely skeptical about it. I mean, like, this is...
I'm not going to play it. It's called PTO, by the way, just for people that are wondering. It's not called Paragon. PTO. And I'm not going to play
it. Paid time off?
Yeah, I guess so. It's P, lowercase t, capital O. I don't know.
What?
Yeah.
This feels like... one of those situations where a company's gone, hey, someone's done most of the hard work on this stuff. We could just take all this nonsense and put it together and it'll look like a pizza. It might not taste as good as most pizzas, but people will definitely buy it because it's a pizza. It feels my cynical brain is going, this is coming from a place and a company that sees an opportunity to flip some assets into something new and benefit off the PR of, hey, Paragon, remember that? It's coming back. We're bringing it back. If you had told me Epic is bringing back Paragon, I'd been like, okay, they clearly thought about this and they have some reason to do it. But if it's like random, publisher, developer that is known for making weird making a lot of weird MMO / online multiplayer games is doing it, I'm just like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will forget you extremely quickly.
Yes, that's exactly where I'm at with this too. Analogue Super NT and Mega SG pre-orders are available again today on Analogue's website. You can go to store.analog.co to have a chance to get it. These went live right as we started the show today. They did sell out. Propaganda Panda says they sold out. I was surprised. The last run they did, you could buy these things for a significantly long period of time, but they did say this is going to be the final run. So I wondered if there would be a lot more people showing up. It seems like that's the case. So they've already sold out. So if you were looking to get an Analog Super NT or Mega SG, well, there you go. You already lost your chance. Finally, there's a great story over on IGN about Spintires, Mud Runner, and Snow Runner. And people are like, SnowRunner is one of my favorite games. Spintires was one of my favorite games. This is a weird lineage of this stuff. But Rebecca Valentine did a really good job of like sussing out what happened here, following the documents to find out who is responsible for the legal fight between the two companies. There was a lot of perception that Saber Interactive, which publishes SnowRunner and stuff on console and PC now, was like the Goliath versus the little David of this little studio that made Spintires. It's way more complicated than that. A lot of Spintires used proprietary code from Saber Interactive at the time, and that's what caused the deal between the two companies to be like, hey, okay, we'll let you guys go. We won't like prosecute you for using our own, our copyrighted material, but we get console publishing rights for these games. And Uvi, the studio that made Spintires, agreed to that, but then they apparently had already agreed to do that with a different company, so it just kept getting messier and messier. It's, this is a lot of the stuff is pretty well known. She just does a really good job of laying it out, and then also making some things connect the dots about like who was responsible for all the big messes here. It goes way deeper than that. There's, of course, people spending company money on frivolous things. I would just say go read this. It's available on IGN right now. It's, if you just Google IGN Spintires, it's going to pop up. So yes, again, like this has always been a pretty open secret. So as people in chat are asking, like, how do you feel about it? It's like, I'm still a big fan of SnowRunners. In this, like the community, it's a pretty big community that really loves these games. All this stuff has been mostly been passed around. Everyone's like, yeah, it seems like a hell of a mess. So I'm gonna keep playing it. I'm
going to be honest, Jeff. You could have made all of that up, and I would not be none. Though I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's the biggest prestige game franchise in the world, Tam. You play as a truck and you run it through the mud, and it's fun.
When you were like Spindrift, I was like, I tried that drink one time, and it wasn't very good. And I don't know what is going on, but good for Rebecca Valentine for exposing Spindrift as a bad drink.
I should make you also come in there and play SnowRunner with me, because me and Dan are doing that series, and I'll just force you to come in one day. And you'll have to move a truck through mud, and you'll get stuck, and I'll help you, but only if you say that SnowRunners is a good game. All right. That does it for the news. I got some polls happening. Let's see. We had one from yesterday. Let me get that pulled up here and transition over after I move it here. In the meantime, Tam, you got anything going on this week?
Oh, mate, the week is over. It's done.
Did it? Wait, we're here?
It's Friday.
Oh, thank God.
We can. It's Forking Friday.
It's Forking Friday. That's right.
Yeah, I think like UPF is happening today. I'm not on that. But I tried to be on it, but Jeff Bacala said, please don't come and be on Giant Bomb content. So if everyone could tweet at Jeff Bacala and just in all caps say SetTamFree. Let Tam be on SetTamFree.
Yeah.
Send that to him. But no, I'm currently working on a review of a video game. I won't. It doesn't take a genius to figure out what video game it is.
You think you're gonna be able to enjoy your weekend, or you think you're gonna be working on that still a lot this weekend? Oh boy, oh baby.
Yep. Like, no weekend.
It's that time of year. It's that time of year.
Yeah, that's what. You know what? My experience has been like it's a game. Here's the thing, right? Don't review games.
Yeah.
don't review video games.
Yeah.
Or like don't if you're gonna review video games, like try and find a way to do it that isn't like every time I write a review, I'm just like, this has to be the greatest piece of writing known to man, and like it doesn't need to be like that, man.
Yeah, do comedy reviews, because
that's
people
what I used to do that.
Yeah.
And it was so
like,
fun.
Oh, wow, this is surprisingly insightful for a comedy review. Like, yeah, like I get like I set you low expectations because you're like, oh, he's just going to come in and goof around, and then you can surprise him and stuff.
The thing is, like, I used to do that a lot, and I love doing that. But the expectation around reviews changed in a way where you can't have fun with them anymore, because bunch of dickheads on the internet will never let you forget it. I remember I once wrote, this is separately, I wrote a preview once for the Deadpool preview. I wrote it as Deadpool, and that was like, you can't get away with that today. Like I was doing dumb chimichanga jokes, and this is pre-Deadpool blowing up. This is when he was like a niche character.
You could do it today, but you'd have to be on YouTube dressed up as Deadpool and sponsored by Deadpool, like, as well.
Exactly. Like these days, it's that. But yeah, I'll be working on that that review for the foreseeable future.
Well, I'm looking forward to the fruits of your labor here. I will be looking forward to that review at the very least. So everyone here promises we're going to read it too. So I'm looking forward to it. In the meantime, I asked everybody, hey, are you playing Marvel Snap? 33.1% said yes, 66.9% said no. I think that's a pretty high number for a new game trying to get off the ground. Obviously, it's a Marvel free-to-play mobile game, so it's easy to access it.
Are you
high profile?
Are you playing it on PC or mobile?
I'm mostly playing it on my phone. Yes, mostly on mobile.
So I've been playing it on mobile, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'll just download it at my desk as well. But I haven't launched it, so I don't know if it's got like sharing of progress or data.
It should,
or
yes, I think it does. It should share your I mean, you know what? I'm assuming because like I also I have the Steam thing. I've been, like I said, mostly playing on here because I literally just downloaded it on Steam, getting ready to like try it out on console, or on PC today. Jan says it does. That, of course, it does. That would be
good.
Yeah. So, hey. Are you enjoying it? You're playing it? You said you're playing it?
Oh yeah, I played. So here's the thing. Marvel games are like popping off right now for me in my life. So I played a board game called Marvel United or Unite, one of those two, and like it is awesome. Like it is such a good board game. It's a cooperative game, where you kind of like have this circular board and you're moving from point. It's basically very similar to Snap, where it's like you need to control areas, and like there are locations on the kind of like board where it's like, oh, Wakanda, or I don't know, Genosha, or sort of stuff like that, and you have to like rescue people, and you've got, depending on how many people you play, like I was playing with Lucy and one of our friends Stu, and I was playing as Blade, obviously, and Lucy was playing as Nightcrawler, and so like we were doing this thing where Lucy was like basically picking my Blade up and teleporting me around different like locations in the Marvel universe, and I was like, Nightcrawler and Blade appear, and then like Blade like just kills a bunch of bad guys, rescue some people, and then they vanish again, and it's just like really, really cool.
That sounds awesome.
The problem with it is it was a Kickstarter project, and you can't go, and like it gets better the more expansions you buy for it, but the problem is you can't just go into a store and buy an expansion for it. So it's basically like impossible now. You have to go to eBay where people are like selling small pieces of it for like way too much money. But I started playing that, and then I started playing Snap, and Snap is like, it gives me the same kind of like fun cooperative, like not super intense, but like really, really deep and enjoyable vibes. And I'm enjoying it. I play a little bit in bed. So I'm looking to getting more into it.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where you can get into it as much as you want or as little as you want. It's still fun, kind of no matter what you do, no matter how you choose to, like, and that's really impressive stuff. I'm like, Hearthstone had some of that, but like, no, at a certain point, you really quickly have to engage with the meta on at least some level.
Is Bacala playing it?
I don't know. We should.
Because when we were doing Bombathon, when we were like, there was one day when we were getting breakfast. I don't think you were there for that one. I
slept in. Hell yeah.
But yeah, he was like showing me his weird Marvel card collections that he's got.
Yeah. He did download it. He downloaded it during Snap.
Okay.
Did you end up playing it? They're not weird, he says, about his card collection.
I was completely fascinated by it. I thought it was really cool, and he was showing me like, I've got foils. And he's been a right little pervert about it.
Yeah, hell yeah, that's the best. I love pervert Bacalar. That's the best kind of Bacalar. He says, he played a few times.
Okay, good.
Yeah, get your collection going in there, Bacalar. You'll enjoy
I feel like this is because the whole like, barrier or like frame break and then 3D and that kind of stuff feels like it's, if they ever introduce like an actual collectible element digital where it's like there's only a certain amount of these, you can trade them, that's when it's going to be like, oh no. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I'm not prepared for that. I asked a new poll question, everybody. Will Persona 6 have a global simultaneous release, a launch? And that, just to help out with that question there, Japan, North America at the same time is basically what I'm asking there. But a lot of people feeling pretty confident already. We'll get to that on Monday. In the meantime, today, Giant Bomb, UPF, We might try to play some Call of Duty. We haven't figured out exactly when we could do that. We'll have some quick looks being recorded that might go up soon. But other than that, I don't know. Friday Night Fork can happen on a Thursday night. We'll get that archive posted at some point. Make sure you check that out. Thanks everyone who did tune in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, make sure you go to the Windbag. I think it's _Windbag.
_Windbag on Twitch. He does it Monday through Wednesday.
Yeah, follow there, and also show him some love. Like that was a wild thing, as you can tell. And yeah, it would be good for the Giant Bomb community to show up and be like, "Hey, man, that was sick. Yeah, we're excited to have you back."
And I think that's really what I want to say is so many of you in the Giant Bomb community were very warm and very welcoming and very down. And we kind of this is kind of what Giant Bomb's going to be sometimes, where we see something awesome and we want to share it with you and give them a little bit of a platform and some money. We're going to do that. And my expectation is you're going to be cool about that, everybody. And you were. Yeah. So just shout out everybody for being willing to try something new, have it put in front of you with the Giant Bomb label right there, and be like, yeah, let's go for it. And at the end of the night, everyone was buzzing from it. I definitely was.
Yeah, I just love seeing people talking about the Fork Illuminati in our chats now, and there's people who are posting forks and Illuminati symbols in chat now, and I'm just like, this is great.
Yeah, this is what it's about. This is what it's about. Thank you everybody for watching today as well. Tam, thanks for hanging out with me, man.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, you're the best audience in gaming. Have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Take care. Brush your hair.